Hello, my name's Ben Hull. This is my lovely bride of 32 years, Kate. We've been coming to City Central for about a year and a half. We have 7 kids. Most of them are grown, but we bring 2 with us. And we've been asked to share our journey of generosity. We wanted to talk more about what God has done now, but it's good to give you some perspective on where He's brought us from the beginning, and even going back to childhood, just sharing a little bit about generosity. And I know a lot of you are generous by nature. You're naturally generous. You're gift givers, and that's your love language. One of us is that way. One of us was not, and that would be me. I was just the opposite of kind of the gift-giving love language. And growing up, our family gave gifts, but we're very practical. We're a middle-class family. Didn't have a lot of money. Our gifts were very practical. Even when I graduated from high school, I got a typewriter. All my friends were getting trips to Mexico and new cars, and a pair of socks for Christmas. And but we didn't have a lot of money, and it was pretty tight. And we only talked about money when we didn't have it. And then my tummy did most of the talking. When I was hungry as a teenager, I was always hungry. We didn't go out much. We went out to dinner maybe once a month, and that was usually the Skipper's all-you-can-eat 2-for-1 special. And so we didn't talk a lot about giving, and gift giving wasn't a big part of our family. I'm going to assume my parents were giving to their church and tithing, but again, they didn't talk much about it. And so we just were more frugal and practical in our giving, and that's kind of how we were raised. And Kate was raised a lot differently.
Yeah. So, I think generosity is in my DNA. I came from a family where I can remember my dad saying over and over again, "We are very fortunate." And then he would point out to us the people that were not so fortunate, and he was always quick in giving. We were not a believing family, moral family for sure, and generosity was part of that. I think the philosophy in our home was mi casa es su casa. We had many people joining us for our meals and even staying with us. So generosity definitely was part of my upbringing. So you bring together somebody who was not raised with a lot of generosity, and then somebody who was raised being very generous. And of course, there was conflict to begin in our relationship. And I just have one quick kind of funny story about that. Ben was talking about the practical gifts.
Here we go.
For my birthday, the first year that we were married, for my birthday, I was given a bathroom scale. And so if that is not a romance killer, I don't know what is. Of course, I was devastated. I was hurt. And that was just the beginning of many kind of awkward and conflicting moments in our marriage over gift giving. I can report that he is much better today. But
that was a rookie mistake.
Yeah. So it was not in his DNA, it was in mine. So anyway, but things changed because we both came to Jesus.
That was not only a rookie mistake, but it was a before Christ mistake, and I've been washed by the blood, is what I always when I hear. But unfortunately, 32 years later, I still have to hear that story. So, but it's been a faith process, though, a response to faith, and then for me, as becoming a Christian, I'm probably one of the few people you ever meet who really came to Christ through the study of Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy. It was through God was working at me from a number of angles, but it was really studying God's Word in the Old Testament, and I was watching how God repeatedly provided for His people, not only in the Garden of Eden, but all through the wandering of in the wilderness for 40 years. God provided their daily need, their daily manna, not only for them and their household, but even their livestock were provided for. They got what they need. They grumbled. They didn't maybe get what they wanted, but they got everything they needed. And through that study, that was kind of an eye-opening moment for me to realize, if God could do that, has done that through time and over, why wouldn't he do the same thing for me, provide all my needs? And so that was the last kind of the finger I had clinging to, I was sold out for Jesus, but that was kind of the last finger that was holding on to this generous aspect of being a Christ follower, and the money aspect, and just opening my palm to everything that God was going to bring to me. And so I would say becoming generous was kind of the last step of really selling out to Jesus, and selling out and giving my faith over to the great provider who I knew would meet all my needs. So.
Generosity after that point became a lifestyle for Ben and I. I can remember we were moving from our starter home to a home that we've considered more to be our dream home. And before we bought it, I sat in the driveway and I just prayed and I said, Lord, if you give us this house, we will use it for whatever you ask of us. And we moved in on a Friday, and on a Sunday, a homeless family moved right in with us. There was the parents and 2 children. And I said, wow, God, you really take us up on what we promise you. And it was a joy to share what we had at that time. From there, we also had home ministry where we housed young women who are in unplanned pregnancies. And we've done multiple housing missionaries. And so really, we started to believe that God had given us everything. It all belonged to him, and that we had the opportunity and we had the responsibility to use it for his glory and for the good of others. We really took to heart we've been blessed to be a blessing. And so, just generosity, it just grew in our lives. And the more that our generosity grew, the more we were being blessed by God. And it was exciting, and it was freeing. Ben will talk a little bit about the stewardship that came along with that. But really, I think our acts of generosity through our married life is probably some of the things that have given us the most joy in serving the Lord.
As far as our stewardship, we decided that stewardship was really going to, whatever we could do to save, we could also give more. And so by not spending extravagantly, it's not going to limit our ability to help others. And through that, God really blessed me. I'm in commission sales, so business is up and down, and never really can count on exactly what I'd be getting every month. But once we started freeing up our hand to God providing and blessing, God just opened the floodgates for my business, my job, and my income just went up. But we kept our roots firm in being good stewards and to continue to be a blessing to others. So we didn't want to get into a lot of debt and buy a lot of things, because we knew, A, you're on commission, but B, I don't want to push that envelope too far and be so burdened that I can't maybe possibly help somebody else when they really need it. So, and quite honestly, I do the finances at home. I pay the bills, and there have been many times Kate doesn't have an idea how much I make. I mean, she doesn't even know and probably doesn't even ask. So when an opportunity to give comes up, and God's laid it both on our hearts, we both feel strongly, we have this thing, she'll say, well, what number do you have in your head? And I'll say, well, what number do you have in your head? Usually I write on, we're the same number when we are giving to a missionary or to a ministry that we're going to be supporting. And
if it isn't the same number, we usually go with Ben's number, just because I'll say a number, and if it's higher, we go with his, because that's not his nature. I would be one, I will give away the farm, but a lot of times when that happens and his number is bigger, we just say, okay, we know it's his number then.
Right. But yeah, God's never let us down in that, and the more, I've heard these stories many times in the journey of generosity, is the more you open up and the more you're faithful in your giving and generosity, the more God just continues to bless you. And it may not come as a one for one. He may just bless you in some totally different way out of the, out of left field that you may get blessed on, and you didn't even see it coming. So it just comes down to us being following the process of faith and obedience.
Yeah, and that, I think, just in concluding, generosity is a process, and it's just like the process of, of sanctification, that when we're saved, that God takes us on a journey of becoming more like Jesus. Well, this is part of that process, that sanctifying process, that you start down here and then God grows you in that. And so I think just to say, there's no shame in where you are on that continuum right now, but just that if you just pray, God, give me a heart of generosity first, and then start asking him, where do you want me to be generous? And it's not just money, it's time, it's emotions, it's investing into other people's lives, it's volunteering and serving in your church. It's all your possessions, your homes, your vehicles, and just holding that loosely and knowing it belongs to God, and then having a heart to say, I am willing to share. And when you start saying that to God, God takes you up on it, and he does it in a way that's not uncomfortable, or if maybe it's good to be uncomfortable in it, but to be stretched. But he doesn't overwhelm. At least for us, it wasn't an overwhelming thing. And it just felt like when we stepped out, he would meet us. And then we'd step out again and he would meet us. Mm-hmm. And it's been an exciting journey.
It has.